Hi everybody, how are you doing? I just got back from a Global Entrepreneurship Week conference at Union Station down in Kansas City. They were talking a lot about global trade, all the sorts of things we want to learn about here in this class, lots of opportunities for a lot of learning. It's ironic then that I'm going to come back and welcome you back to week 6, talking about the trouble with globalization. Now, up to this point, we've been talking about how awesome international business is. We even have the theory of liberalism, which talks about the virtues of free trade and comparative advantage, and how awesome it is when we're able to make money because we're able to get the products in the right people's hands. All good stuff, and all really consistent with the kinds of things that I was learning about today at this conference. It really resonates with some of the things that we're talking about and working on in week 6, like on your global business plan. You're going to be working on an export-import supply chain strategy. This is all stuff that is important as far as trying to move your products around. We are going to be talking about risk management. It's a topic that we started off in the first week, and the second week for that matter, when we start getting into pestle analysis and so on. But you're going to revisit that stuff and start thinking about what the actual risks are for penetrating this specific market with this specific product. So some of the stuff that you did earlier in the course you'll find to be very helpful. Then you're going to be working on a corporate social responsibility strategy, which probably brings us back around full circle to the question of the trouble with globalization. So I'm going to ask the question flat out. If globalization is so awesome, then why do so many people protest it? And in fact, let me go a step further. Why have we now had presidents of the United States saying, we're not so sure about this is kind of a bad thing? You can watch some of the other videos on this topic, but I'll give you a spoiler. One of the main problems with globalization has to do with labor. And that's something that we really haven't talked about that much here in this course up until this point. We've sort of hit around at the edge. We're talking about human resources and being culturally sensitive to people and all that. That's all fine. But we really haven't addressed the fact that with a lot of this global business happening, there are a lot of people being displaced, a lot of people really kind of suffering from this. Like our first theory, liberalism is all about being efficient and trying to make money. The second one we talked about, mercantilism, is about trying to change the economy and the way that we trade in order to try to ensure that certain people stay in power. So we really haven't had that much of a talk about labor. And so it's understandable that people can be upset when they've sort of been marginalized and sidelined through the process. So we're going to talk about why that is, just like we talked before about how products are subject to supply and demand and currencies subject to supply and demand. So is labor. The more laborers there are in a market going toward a certain job, the more their value goes down. And as their value goes down, people get disgruntled. So we're going to talk about how people get displaced, but we're also going to talk about global disparity. This idea that billionaires and multinational corporations not only have a whole lot more than some of the poorest people on the planet, but actually have more money than a lot of nation states. Go figure. Isn't that crazy? And that leads us to another major theory of international political economy and trade, and that is Marxism. Oh, I said it. Ooh, bad word, right? Well, I think it's important and worth talking about. For one thing, it does offer an interesting critique on our systems of global trade and how it's exploiting the working class. It also represents a political movement in a lot of different countries. And I'm not just talking about North Korea or Cuba or something like that. There are thriving socialist parties in many democratic countries throughout the world. And their economies are great, even when the socialists are in charge. So what is it that the socialists bring around that might actually be somewhat beneficial to the worker, maybe business, maybe the economy? So in this discussion, I'm not going to try to persuade you. I'm not going to try to change somebody's mind and think that, wow, I shouldn't be a capitalist anymore. Now all of a sudden I should take on this Marxist framework. But I do think that some of these ideas are worth listening to, if nothing else, to understand where other people are coming from, maybe people who disagree with you. And so that is an important theme in this class. Exciting, controversial week is what it's all about. Lots of fun. Be nice to each other. And as usual, if you have questions, if you have issues, if you have things you'd like me to review or any way that I can help, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to be there for you. We just got a couple weeks left after this, and you're doing well. Best of luck, and I'll talk to you again soon.